Hello, and welcome back to the Eufinity podcast, One Step at a Time. We're your hosts. I'm Sham.
I'm Arushi.
And I'm Hana.
Today, we're going to be talking about relationships and prioritizing healthy relationships for teenagers and young adults. So, what is a healthy relationship? I feel like one of the main aspects of a healthy relationship is mutual respect. And you should respect each other and respect each other's boundaries.
Yeah, I totally agree. Boundaries are so important because you are really close to each other. You think you can do something, but you never know because you got to know what they're comfortable with. That's why I always say best thing for a relationship is communicating. May it be a romantic relationship, a friendship, a relationship with a parental figure, you have to be able to communicate.
For sure. I feel like communication is key. Like Arushi said, any relationship, it doesn't matter if it's romantic or not.
Yeah.
And that brings to the second point. With good communication, you can also build trust. And because if you know each other's boundaries and you respect each other and constantly communicate about what you should do or not, you could bring up the trust with your partners, and you can give each other the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, we're human. We're all going to have our imperfections. We're all bound to fight. There's no relationship where there's no fighting at all.
Right. I think we can all speak from having personal relationships that miscommunication, even through the phone especially, can lead us into so many problems when it's really just not a big deal at all. Back to mutual respect and trust, I think we can tie them together. You should be able to trust that your partner isn't going to break the boundaries that you set for yourself and for each other in the relationship. And I think when trust is broken or you don't have that trust, that's when jealousy comes in, and insecurities in a relationship may seem small and insignificant, but they can blow up at any moment. Yeah. I think for me personally, trust is I have to trust my partner.
Even with friends, now I have a set of 3 friends where I'm okay, these people I can trust with my life. But I think all the good parts of a relationship, to keep your relationship healthy with anybody, may it be a romantic friendship, someone a parental figure, whatever it is, all of these things, they all connect to each other, trust, communication, respect. You can't have one without the other.
I was just going to say how the trust, with trust also comes honesty, because the more you trust each other, the more you can be honest with each other about what you want to say, and you don't feel you have to hide parts of yourself or hide any kind of matters you have with your partner. So that's just goes back to about how trust is so crucial.
I think that everyone's oh, you always have to communicate. When you're angry at somebody, if I'm angry at my mom, probably won't say the nicest things in the moment. You have to learn to understand your own emotions and realize when you need space to yourself, because you don't want to make the situation worse, right? Because there's always going to be something to fight about. And if you know that you're not in the right headspace to have a conversation, just walk away.
It's almost when people say hurtful things, it's definitely to evoke a reaction or to let the other person know how upset you are. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. Take the space to yourself.
Which is why I think especially in dating relationships, compromise is so important. So you don't build up to the point of argument where you both lash out at each other. So you could just compromise and apologize and acknowledge each other's points of views and be willing to give and take. So basically compromise.
Yeah. So basically respecting each other.
Which is why individuality is also a really important part, where no one person, the one partner shouldn't overpower the others in terms of tell them to stop acting like themselves, or telling them to stop certain activities that they may enjoy doing, certain hobbies and stuff. You shouldn't have to compromise on who you are and your identity. Even in within friends, you shouldn't be overbearing in terms of constantly control other people and what they're doing.
I totally agree. I think that no one should have to change who they are to have a good and healthy relationship. Your friends or your significant other, whoever it is, they should like you for who you are. And if they're trying to change you, well, that's a big red flag. And I feel our conversation is drifting into unhealthy relationships. So before we get there, this is just a trigger warning. Topics such as domestic abuse, toxic relationships may or may not come up in the next few minutes. If you are sensitive to these topics, I would either skip it or just stop listening here.
Before we go, just a quick minute before we go into unhealthy relationships, I just want to list out some other quickly a couple other aspects of having a healthy relationship. One is anger control, so you don't lash out and say hurtful things. Fighting fair, you don't want to insult each other, as I said before. Problem solving, that ties into compromising. You want to be able to resolve arguments without being hurtful. Understanding each other, which is a really big part of mutual respect and individuality, along with confidence. You want to be confident in the relationship, and you do that by self-confidence, and the partner should also be role models towards each other, and because by embodying positive characteristics respect, trust, honesty in their communication. And the last aspect of a healthy relationship is for dating partners, it's just maintaining a healthy sexual relationship and consent.
Yeah, that just comes with boundaries, right? Because
you don't want to cross any boundaries.
I have one more point to make about individuality. Personally, I think this is the hardest area to achieve. I think it's really easy with parents. You love them so much that you want to be what they want. And sometimes that's not the best for you. So you have to remind yourself that you are you and they're them.
That's a good transition into our next topic. Control. In a parental relationship, I think parents, as you grow older, they should kind of release the reins a little bit. But when you're younger, it makes sense that they have most of the control because you're a kid, you don't really know. But I've seen toxic parent-child relationships, and it's crazy that their parents don't let them do anything. And then the kids are so ready to leave their house. They're just we're going to college and we're never coming back. You're never going to see me again. And it's crazy. I just think it's insane. I'm really grateful that I've never had to go through that.
Ironically, I think a lot of these parents, their justification for being so controlling is they want to they just feel it would keep the bonds between their children. They don't want their child to drift away from them. But it's still really contrary to what actually happens, because if you put so much control on your kid and are so overprotective and possessive and don't let them do anything, they're gonna drift apart from you, which is quite opposite of what they want to achieve. And I see it how usually parents who kind of don't control as much, or have are not as overstepping boundaries, their kids are more likely trust them and consider them or as a friend, rather than parents who just constantly control their kid and don't let them make decisions for themselves.
I think especially with parents when they are overbearing, and Arusha, you were talking about how kids with really restricting parents, I think the key word is restricting. The kids are automatically they're gonna want to rebel as soon as the reins are let off them, and they probably won't. If the relationship was really bad, they won't want to return back to the parents. And like Sean was saying, that's not what the parent wants. So I learned in psychology that restricting actually just makes us want what we're restricting even more. And that's just common knowledge. You tell yourself, I'm not going to eat chocolate for this whole week. You're going to find yourself wanting to eat that chocolate more than you did if you didn't tell yourself that you couldn't have any.
Also, I think the controllingness with dating partners can also tie into hostility. If they don't they remain in the control, or if the other person doesn't follow what the partner is saying, they'll use more aggressive measures, or they'll antagonize them. And this can break it, hostility can break it, because it can force one partner to conform to the expectations that the other partner set for them, or else they'll have to deal with the hostile nature from them. I think this can also apply to parental relationships, because in situations where the kid doesn't do exactly what the parent told them to, they will resort to aggressive or hostile measures.
If we're being real with my parents, I definitely have to filter out what information I give them, because
or they'll start interrogating you.
Right. It's almost the more information I give them, the more vulnerable I am, and the more chances that they can not attack me, but hold me against my own words, which is kind of a form of gaslighting. And I also think we are talking about parental relationships a lot, but I think honestly it's one of the most important ones, because that's what you grow up with as a child. That's what you're taught. And that like idealism is going to be carried over in your romantic relationship because that's all you know. So you think that's right.
And we've been focusing a lot on parental and like romantic relationships, but all of this can also happen with your friends. And I feel like that's where you least expect it. Like you hear about like emotional and verbal abuse, and of course physical abuse too in romantic relationships, and parents who are super restrictive and super like strict. But like you sometimes you can never tell that it's your own friend, and it's like your best friend who's like constantly putting you down, constantly like you're always seeking their validation. They're always like trying to force you into doing things that you don't really want to do, but you do anyway just to make them happy. And like I'm speaking from experience, like I had a friend like that when I was younger, and like it took me not like talking to them for months to realize what a ridiculous situation that was. I'm like, I can't believe I was there, because like after that I kind of reinvented myself. I was like a brand new person because I was like, no one's holding me back anymore. I can do what I want. And looking back, I can't even believe that I was so gullible and that's the thing, it can happen to anyone and they won't even realize. And you can think you're the most strongest, the smartest, you got like street smarts. I feel like everyone's susceptible to something like this.
I feel like we're all naive, especially as teenagers. Like we're just, even me, like I'm in college and I still feel like I'm figuring out my relationship and what's healthy and what's not. It's a lifelong journey.
Moving on to the next topic, tying into hostility, there's also intimidation, like fear-based tactics, and that like brings to the second point, physical violence, which is a very prominent sign of unhealthy relationships, because I don't ever think like relationships should ever get to physical violence.
I don't think that you should be scared of your own partner. Then that's a really big red flag.
And like I love reading. If anyone's read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, it's a book on a girl. Her dad used to abuse her mom, like physically and verbally abuse her mom, and she was like, I will never put myself in that position. Like, why would I let someone do this to me? She ends up marrying someone who does abuse her, and she lets him. She then finally understands what her mother is going through, and like I would really suggest you go read the book. It's a fiction book. So we've talked so much about what constitutes as a healthy relationship, what constitutes as an unhealthy relationship. And we've also talked about how hard it is for someone who is in an unhealthy relationship to either recognize the red flags or just get the courage to leave. Because honestly, it takes a lot. You need to be super strong. So if you see your friend, you see your mom, your dad, your parental guardian, anybody, you see them going through, maybe you see some of the red flags, you have to make that first step and kind of talk to them and be like, hey, are you okay? Are you safe? And you have to reassure them and you have to give them your support, and you have to be sensitive, because this topic, we're talking about it so openly, but it's such a sensitive topic. You have to watch out for your friends. I honestly think that's the biggest thing, because you're the only one that can help them.
Right, you're a different perspective, and you can be the one person that points out to them that they don't have to put up with this. And I think it's important that as a friend, you can remind them that it's their choice that they're with this person. And that might be enough to give them the courage to leave.
Some people are completely dependent on their partners. Like I've seen like abusive relationships. I've read research done on people who have been abused by their partners, and a lot of times what happens is that they're completely financially, physically, mentally dependent on this person, that it's basically impossible for them to leave without help. And they don't want to tell anybody because like, oh my God, I'm getting hit by my husband, or I'm getting hit by my wife, because men can also be abused.
I think like what you said applies a lot to like I said before, Asian community as well. In the past couple of like decades, women were like supposed to like be housewives and stay at home. So like what if they were being abused, they couldn't seek refuge somewhere else. So like I feel like that's a really big like reason why a lot of people don't really express it.
And they're probably embarrassed.
Exactly.
I guess I dated this guy in high school, and it was one of those situations where I did not realize that he was being a little bit manipulative towards me. And I guess I'm opening up about my past relationship. I thought it was all fine, Danny, just a simple relationship. But it turns out that I was actually very, very insecure and not confident, and I would portray that. I would always put myself down. I would always make myself feel bad in front of him. And of course, him being the boyfriend, like, no, like, Hannah, like, and would always reassure me. But then when it came time and he was angry, he would bring up those insecurities that I shared with him and use them against me. And that's not a good feeling. And I can't believe that I went so long without realizing that it was borderline toxic.
Just to brush back on domestic abuse, a lot of people don't realize that men can also be abused by their wives. So when men come out and they ask for help, no one believes them. That's why I always believe, just believe the victim unless they're proven wrong.
I was gonna say, I think the main reason why people don't believe men is tied into misogyny and like patriarchy. So like when men come out about their experience of being abused by women, people don't tend to like believe them because they're like, there's no way a woman could like hurt a man.
Yeah, and I know we're talking a lot about abuse right now, and physical abuse is the last stop. There definitely, if something happens to you and your partner is laying their hands on you for any reason, obviously, first of all, that's a really big red flag. But if you look back, you'll probably also find other red flags that were there, just you didn't see them. That's a sign that you need to stop and reevaluate your situation. I think that healthy relationships can be the best thing for your mental health, but you should not have to prioritize someone else over your own mental health just to continue being in a relationship with them. Then it's honestly not worth it because it's unhealthy. And
I see it like two sides of the same coin. Like healthy relationships can be the best thing for you, but like at the same time, it can quickly turn into an unhealthy relationship, and that can be like really damaging for your mental health.
Exactly. And we talked about a lot today. So whoever is listening, if there are services for victims in an abusive relationship, there is AMEN for men experiencing domestic violence. That's AMEN. There's Women's Aid. There's 1 in 4. There's the National Helpline. And like, honestly, like, reach out. I know it's hard. I know it's like, but make sure, like, if you see these red flags, if you're like, I don't know, like, if you think that, something's
if you're questioning it.
Exactly. If you're questioning it, if you find yourself fearing what your partner is going to say or do after you've done something, that is probably the biggest red flag. Like it's like a traffic light in your face. Like, make an effort to notice it, make an effort to communicate, because like, you're worth it. You are, like, whoever's listening, like, you're strong, you're independent, you're an amazing person, and no one should be able to tell you that you aren't.
And healthy relationships, they should only help you progress. Like, I mean, in my boyfriend's and I relationship, we've been dating for like a year now, and we see it, like, we think of it as we're progressing in our own little lives and what we want in our future, but we're also supporting each other's future, even though they're not the same right now. Exactly. So like, we're still very supportive of our goals, and we want to do everything we can so we can get each other there.
Exactly, because at the end, you just want to be happy, right? You want to be successful together.
Yeah, and if you love that person, you want them to be happy too.
Exactly. And if their dream isn't the same as yours, like, that's totally fine. You don't need it to be the same as yours. I can go talk about healthy relationships forever. So we're going to take a break. We're going to end it here with our tip for taking care of mental health for this week is journaling. Having a notebook, taking 10 minutes at the end of every day and just reflecting on your thoughts and what you did during the day is honestly just a good way, first of all, to get it all down on paper. So maybe if there's a red flag, you'll see it. Or like, you can see yourself progress when you journal. If I start journaling today, a month from now, I'm not going to be the same person I am today, even if it's a little bit of a difference. Maybe not a month, maybe 2 or 3 months. But like, it's crazy to see how you grow and see how you're growing either with your partner or you're growing by yourself, or just becoming a better version of yourself, you know? And like, it can't hurt, right? Like 10 minutes a day, it's not gonna kill you.
I journal probably every day. And I'm obsessed with going to the store and buying a bunch of pretty journals and then half finishing them and then buying another one. I'm really guilty about that.
Yeah.
But personally, I think it's fun. I like to go outside and I journal, or I like to ride my bike and journal. It's perfect alone time and like self-indulging, like
And
organized.
it's all there for you to see, like
Exactly.
once it's over.
I would say it's like a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And
People have. Yeah, I used to do this, but photo booth. I used to vlog. Because I'm just so lazy. I don't want to write, so I would just turn off photo booth and I would just talk. And like it doesn't even matter. No one's gonna see it. I don't want to show anyone. So it's like
I also used to do, like, I did this once and it honestly really helped. I was going through a terrible time. Like, I was not in a good mental like headspace, like middle of the night, and I'm like, I do not want to write right now. I just grabbed my phone, turned on voice memos, and I just started talking.
yeah.
I talked for 45 minutes in my bedroom, and like I'm talking and I didn't even realize, and I listened to it, and like it's like you can, because it's you, right? So you know what was going through your head at the time that you're saying it, and after you've said all of it, you kind of feel better because it's all out of your system. And by listening to it, you're kind of like reflecting, and it's crazy how much that can help. And like it can't even tell anybody, it's a phone. Like, you know what, like even when you tell your friends, you're kind of like, oh my god, are they gonna tell anybody?
Yeah, like even when you're telling your friends, even when you're telling anyone, I always find that there's some sort of filter. Like it sounds bad, like, oh, I'm never showing my true self. That's not it. I'm just.
But it's just like with some people, you just wouldn't say something.
Yeah, some people I want to share certain things, and then other people I don't.
Like even if you're sharing like the same story, you would like have a different filter if you're sharing with like your
Right.
parents and with your friends.
Yeah, like
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
you're not gonna tell your parents about the night you spent with your boyfriend, but you're gonna tell you're gonna tell your friends. But I think that's honestly like a good happy note to end on.
Mhm.
I know this was a sensitive topic. I just want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed, and you guys can tune in again 2 weeks from now for our next episode. Thank you.